Okay, back to trading more intraday, more short-term-esque trades. I wouldn't say scalp, but call it what you want. Um, and yeah, ended up taking one break-even trade and one win. I'll go over both trades here. This is the winner. Let me just hide this. I'll go over the break-even first because I took that one first. Now, we can start on the, well, let's start on the weekly because the daily just looks so bad, right? The weekly, I just have the previous weekly high and the previous weekly low marked up. Obviously, the weekly looks fucking terrible too. Look, at the end of the day, we're consolidating inside consolidations, inside consolidations, inside consolidations, right? Price is just going sideways. On the weekly, it's going sideways. On the daily, and then more recently, it's going sideways inside of that. Like it's, but anyways, that's why I had previous weekly high and previous weekly low marked up, is because it's just more of a, like I just felt like previous daily high and previous daily low wasn't too big of a draw because of where we're at right now. It's like we're just consolidating. It looks dog shit, right? So previous weekly high, previous weekly low marked up. I think it was worth looking at the weekly because of how the daily looks. And I'm really not getting much from the daily as far as my bias. The 4 hour I got my bias from today because the 4 hour we swept this low here with this swing low, and then we inverse the 4 hour, and also then we're bouncing from a 4 hour fair value gap. When the market initially opened, we started going lower, and so I told myself, if we inverse this 4 hour, then I'd start being bearish. I could look for shorts because at the end of the day, we swept this high. We were respecting this 4 hour up until here, where we flip structure technically when we inverse this for a bearish candle. But at the end of the day, if we came back down and inverse this candle, then yeah, I could be bearish. But that didn't end up happening. We ended up respecting the 4 hour after inversing the 4 hour bearish fair value gap. And so I was looking for longs. And so obviously we got this Judas swing here, sweeping the lows. We did have an SMT here. If you look at ES, ES actually took these lows here. Did not sweep the lows, but we swept this low. So whatever, but there was an SMT, so it didn't matter. Go to the 15-minute, you'll see we formed a tiny 15-minute fair value gap on NQ after sweeping that low. And that's what we tap back into. And for my first trade, what I used as my higher time frame PD array. We were also clearly bouncing off of a 5-minute. And if you go to the 1 minute, I think that's the time. Yeah, that's the time frame I entered off of. So the 1 minute here, looking for just a continuation trade. That's all I'm looking for. I mean, we went higher from after sweeping liquidity, and then we were going to go, we retraced back into a 15-minute, and I was looking for a bounce higher, which we clearly ended up getting, and I was able to catch a nice long afterwards. But if you go to the 1 minute time frame here, inversion, okay, entered. This trade, ironically, I was entering off the 1 minute time frame here. Ironically, I was able to get in this trade on both of my accounts because I'm using Tradeovate. And I'm not copy trading Tradeovate because it's through Lucid, and I just don't like. Yeah, I'm not copy trading, so I have to quickly enter on both accounts. On the 1 minute, I was able to do so. It just gave me enough time. Like we traded lower first, so I was able to get in on both accounts. The second trade, sadly, I was only, and that was the winner, was only able to get in on the first account. I mean, it just went too fast, which is great if it goes quickly in your direction. But I'd love to be able to get in on both accounts first, but it is what it is. But yeah, 1 minute inversion after we were inside a 15-minute higher time frame for value gap, and it was a continuation trade I was looking for. And what I did was, the reason this ended up being break even is because we had a 5-minute here. So once we entered into the 5-minute, that's when I broke even, and we looked really bullish here. And you know, obviously when the body was all the way up here of this 1 minute candle, I was feeling pretty good, but we entered that 5 minute and we came back down and hit my break even, and then we catapulted higher to my take profit after that. It is what it is. I managed that trade well. Could I have not broken even? Sure. I mean, technically that would be breaking my rules. My rules are in place for a reason, because we could have obviously the 15 minutes stronger than the 5 minute here, but we could easily just respect this 5 minute for whatever reason. Like, it's just a good place to break even. It is. I didn't break even too early there or anything. So that was the first trade. Okay. Now, second trade, the reason I said ironically the last trade was the one I was able to get in on both accounts is because this one I entered on a higher time frame. I entered on the 5 minute. So you'd think the 5 minute would give you a little bit more wiggle room to be like, okay, I can enter on this account. Let me quickly go to the other account and enter. But as you can see, how quickly this happened. You know, I placed my limit order here. Now let me explain why I entered here. So what I was looking for was I was looking for this 5 minute to get inversed. 5 minute bearish fair value gap. I wanted to inverse. We were still respecting the 15 minute. So it was the first trade I took, but just on a higher time frame. And we didn't inverse it. We didn't inverse it. We finally inversed it with this candle. And so what I told myself is, fine. This is a decent enough draw right here. We did end up hitting it. I didn't think it was that great, but it was somewhere that price could go to if we wanted higher. What I didn't want to see is I did not want to see us trade above this internal high here. If we traded above this internal high here, I would have got rid of my limit order right here. But we didn't. We tapped the limit first and then we went higher. And I broke even immediately once we went above this high, and luckily there was enough expansion where I did not break even on this trade, because this was honestly a pretty quick break even, but it just had to be because we expanded so much upon inversing this 5 minute that that was the best entry I could get if I still wanted to enter. Stop underneath this low. I just figured, you know, if we're going to come all the way down here, the trade's invalidated. Like, the likelihood of us sweeping my stop loss here and not taking this low, yeah, I thought that was fine. So perfect 1-to-1 trade. The reason I have this blue line marked out here is because that was is it on the 4 hour? What time frame did I look at that on? 15 minute. This was the consequent encroachment, the middle of this wick on the 15 minute. So I thought if we weren't going to take this high immediately, that would be a place where we could end up respecting. I didn't, you know, that obviously less than a 1-to-1 if I target that. So I was just hoping that we didn't reject from there, and we luckily didn't. And that is the trade. Let's see, could we have entered off this 15 minute because we still didn't take that high? Could it, like, if we missed this trade for whatever reason? Ah, that leg is so shit. I mean, there's technically actually, I don't even know. No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he could have, but it was a solid day today. One thing I want to point out is that on ES, we did inverse this high at a nicer area where it's like, okay, this candle, meaning this candle on NQ, inverse the 5 minute. So what I could have done is I could have said, okay, well, we inverse a 5 minute on ES, I'll get in here. And that would have been, you know, almost 1-to-2, unless I wanted to just take a 1-to-1 to this high. So that's something to take note of too, is like, okay, we can, if we have a strong enough, if we have enough confidence in a setup, I don't think it should be used as a reason to enter if we're like kind of on edge for a trade and we're not too confident in it, and we don't get the inversion on NQ, but it does give it to us on ES, and it's just like, okay, sure, I'll enter. This made sense to me because I was pretty confident in this setup that I could have utilized this on ES and said, okay, cool, ES inverse, let's get in on NQ. I did not. luckily I was still able to get an entry, but something to take note of. And those were the two setups I took today. I didn't trade yesterday. There just wasn't anything that looked nice. Again, I was only able to get in on this on one of my two Tradeovate accounts, so that kind of stinks. But it is what it is, right? We're just trying to take a winner more than we take losses, right? So I'm not gonna downplay this day or get upset that I didn't take it on both accounts. Like that's all like who gives a fuck? You know, ideally I'm trading on a live account where I only have to worry about one execution or executing on one account, right? So that's kind of how I'm treating this. Obviously, in the back of my mind, I know I have to fucking enter on multiple accounts, and I don't have a copy trader, so I tried my best. But if I do miss it, like I did today, because it just moved so fast and I couldn't switch accounts quick enough, um, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get too fed up with that because at the end of the day, I found a setup and it worked. So, you know, that was the trading day.